I cannot believe I just got my permanent residency visa in Mexico. This is the editing version of me. I keep saying permanent residency visa. It's not a visa. I'm a permanent resident. In this video, I'm gonna attempt to explain how I did it, why I did it. I'm gonna try to dissect the nuances of the process because a lot of people don't really understand. And I'm gonna explain why it was necessary for me as someone who is black and proudly queer to be able to have lifelong permanent residency outside of America in a country that I love and respect. So yeah. So about 4 years ago, I started coming to Mexico City just to spend some time with my friends. I had a really close friend who traveled there a lot, and she would always rant and rave about how beautiful and amazing this city was. But I was living in New York and I was in my own world and I didn't really understand until she invited me to stay with her, and I got to experience it for myself. And that first couple of weeks was pretty life-changing for me, to be honest. I never felt that sense of mobility and freedom and peace that I had felt when I had first came to Mexico City. I believe that first week I made several new friends organically, and it really was life-changing to me. So when I went back to New York, I just started to dream about being in Mexico City, and I started to figure out how I can go there more often. So what started as me going like once every blue moon turned into me going like once every month, and then I would stay like for a week, then it would turn into 2 weeks, and then it would turn into a month. And then it just started to get to a point where I was spending more time in Mexico City than I was in New York. So cut to the pandemic. The pandemic was a very earth-shattering moment for a lot of people, but specifically for me in my life, it was a time where I had to really reckon with my place in America and what it means to actually be a black person living in a time where black people were being gunned down by police violence and police brutality. So it was a moment where I went to the George Floyd funeral in Houston, Texas, where I realized that this country has never really been here for black people, and I want to start making some serious changes so that I can ensure a future beyond the weight of oppression from the US. So I started to research how I could stay in Mexico City legally, because I had the intent to move, but I didn't want to just like go back and forth on a tourist visa, which is what most people do. And you know, I can't judge anybody, but I wanted to make sure I moved there responsibly. Back in 2020, the income requirements were a lot lower. And so I scheduled my first appointment in Houston, Texas at the Mexican consulate. I had to schedule it like 3 or 4 weeks in advance. And yeah, the meeting was very, what's the word I'm looking for? Pragmatic. Like I had to have this like case of paperwork. I researched all the paperwork that I needed, and I made sure that I went to Kinko's and printed out all that paperwork. I spent $10 to make sure I did it. And she asked me like, why do you want to be in Mexico? And I told her I really wanted to explore the culture. I wanted to explore Mexico City, and I wanted to explore other parts. And tell me why she was like, oh, so you're going to Puerto Vallarta, right? Like your gay ass is gonna be at the beach, right? And I was like, okay, girl, you don't have to clock my tea like that, but hey, maybe once every blue moon I'll go to Puerto Vallarta. Yeah. And you know, she eventually, after a short meeting, she approved everything. And so then I had to fly back into Mexico. And when I flew back into Mexico, I had already put all my stuff in storage in Brooklyn, and that was like me moving. So I was able to live with a friend, and I really started to plant myself in Mexico. I started to become obsessed with the queer culture in Mexico City specifically. I found queer folks in Mexico City to be super warm and to really embrace me. and I started to figure out like how to connect with that community in a way that felt organic. I would have like little dinner parties where I would cook like mac and cheese. I would cook like bacon mac and cheese, and then somebody would bring like a traditional Mexican dish, and we would just have like that moment where we can like talk about how we grew up, and like this is the type of food that they cook in the South. I'm from Houston, Texas, so I definitely know my way around the stove, honey. I do not cook on high, I cook on motherfucking low and medium. That's an inside joke. Yeah, the visa process from temporary residency was just and it just involved me, you know, renewing it every year. So the first year I tried to renew it myself, and I couldn't afford like a fancy lawyer, so I was like, I'm just gonna do this myself. So I waited in line at the embassy at 3 a.m. because that's the time you had to get there if you didn't have like a formal appointment. And I think I was like too late to set an appointment at the time, and so I waited there at 3 a.m. and I was talking to them in my broken Spanish, and they were just like, okay, we don't know what's going on with you. But, you know, by the grace of God, they still allowed me to renew that year. And then the year after that, I was living in Mexico City, so it was a bit easier. At that time, I had found someone who could help me, who took a lot of the process for me, thank God. And then there was one year where it's like I didn't have any money to fly back. I was like, oh my God, I have to fly back to Mexico, because at that point I had moved to Houston because my father passed away, unfortunately. And what really struck me about that moment is that when I needed to come back, like the community that I had built here had my back. Like I didn't worry about where I was gonna stay. I didn't worry about if people forgot about me. Like as soon as I got back, my friend threw a party for me. I was able to stay with my friends because I didn't have any money. All I had was the money to renew the visa and pay the lawyer. That's it. I didn't have anything else. And I remember there was like a little small issue with something. But, you know, thankfully by the grace of God, like I was able to work it out with them. It's like God was always like kind of having my back. Like there was like all these little small issues, like things were getting in the way, but like there was always like kind of a breakthrough. And it kind of showed me that like, okay, maybe this is supposed to happen for me. And then this last year, woo, child. So in 2026, they actually raised the price of permanent residency to over 100%. People speculate that it's because of the Trump administration. It's kind of like them getting their lick back. Like, oh, y'all want to move here? Okay, but y'all want to fucking discriminate against our people. But that's not proven. Nobody knows that. So I can't even sit up here and kiki and act like that's what it is. But I couldn't afford it at all. I was living in Houston, Texas, and you know, Houston is my hometown, but it was just a struggle. And so I actually had to fundraise, and you know, people give me shit for fundraising. Like I've gotten a bit of backlash, but it's like, what was I supposed to do? Like I was just supposed to let the opportunity to have permanent residency in a country that I love and respect. I was just supposed to let that shit pass me by. I'm just supposed to be like, oh, what was me? Like, what I want people to understand is queer people do not have the luxury of shame. In the words of Blanca Evangelista. Okay? I say that a million times. I'll say it a million more times. So if there is a financial obstacle that is getting in the way of my freedom, GoFundMe.com. Yes, I would like to start a fundraiser. Yes, thank you. And long story short, I was able to raise the funds, and now I am a permanent resident of Mexico. And yeah, I just think it's a big blessing. I feel so blessed, and I feel honored to be in this country. It's not lost on me the privilege of being able to be here as a permanent resident and being able to have health insurance and buy an apartment potentially and start a business potentially. But I believe that queer people of color deserve opportunities for liberation, and I am very proud that I have this chance. So that's my personal story. You know, I'm trying to give a take, not as like a fucking YouTuber who's trying to secure a bag and get people to like sign up for consultation calls, but I just want to give you a real version of what it's like to do it when you low-key don't have the finances, or you just gotta kind of make a way out of no way. Like, I'm not like a rich white girl that's like, oh my god, I have $50,000 and I just, yeah, it was easy. Like, it's not that easy, and it did not happen overnight. Some people were like, oh, how'd you get it so fast? I'm like, it was a 4-year process, boo. It was not, there's nothing fast. There's nothing fast about it. It took a lot of research, took a lot of flights. So if you're seeking to move away from the US, just know that it is possible. You can make it happen, and don't let anything get in the way of your freedom.